424. Hi, press star 6, unmute yourself.
Star 6.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there.
Yes. Hi, Dana. Hi, Judge Joe.
How are you?
Good. I watched your show back in the day. So, yeah, good advice. Always had good counsel. So, yeah, and this is my opinion only, but this is what resonates with my soul. And Dana, I know you could tell reading my comments, but the CRT. And I'm a parent of 3 adult melanin, 2 daughters, 1 son, 5 grandchildren. And I am all for CRT because my understanding when I hear it being explained is that it's going to get to the core and the root of the slave mentality. Because for a slave master to beat for a different race of people, to beat other human beings, that is beast-like. And they had to have a warped mindset to even do that. So I feel like their children, and there's melanated people that are against it. All different races are against it. They don't want their children being taught that. But instead of us,
I don't want to interrupt you, but that's not quite what the woman says. I just sent Dana an article that Crenshaw, the woman who came up with this theory, explains what she's doing. She says there's no such thing as race to begin with. She says that's an artificial construct. And she's not being critical in her analysis. That's just a label for what was essentially Black studies back in the late 60s. It's a remodeling of something that's 50 some years old. And in the 60s, it was rehash of what they did in the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 10s, and from the late 19th century. It just started getting taught to students as Black history and Black studies when they started setting up minority studies departments in various universities in the late 60s. So it's just a rehash. It's just a name. It's not critical in terms of being a critical analysis. Basically what it is it just blames men and it laments that women are given no recognition for their suffering in the struggle. And it's basically a feminist position that says race is only an artificial construct and isn't real, and science proves it's not a real thing. So, I mean, it's not even what it's supposed to be.
Well, then it's still being a distraction, because I know for me, I went to high school in the late 70s, and I'm a Californian. And the school that I went to at the time, it was just Black, Mexican.
Where'd you go?
James Litt.
What school? What city were you in? I grew up in LA. I went to Dorothy High.
Well, I was born in LA, but my parents moved me to San Jose, California.
Okay.
Because didn't nobody even know about San Jose, California back in the day, right?
I did. You could get up there at 1650 on PSA. Okay.
Well, anyway, so when I was in high school, it was just Black, Mexican, and white folk. And I'm a yellow girl like you, Dana. And back in the day, I was too yellow for the Black kids, and I was too Black for the white kids. So the Mexican kids embraced me. My point is, I'm neutral to everybody. But in school history, I didn't, because it started at slavery. So we do, whether this CRT is fake or whatever, that needs to be taught in schools, what happened, the mentality of slavery, not just Black folks, because that's what I took from it back in high school, that we was all slaves, we was all beneath human, we was all stupid, and all through my life, that was deep rooted in me, like I wasn't good enough. And like white beauty, if you wasn't blonde with blue eyes, now mind you, I had natural blonde friends that we vibe. Because I can be friends with a purple person as long as we vibe and resonate. But it made me feel throughout my life. And now in my 50s, I've woken up to the truth, because everything's being exposed now, the truth. of the schools, the governments, and everything, you know? And so when I was in school all through my life, I felt subconsciously like I wasn't good enough because I didn't look like, you know, back in the day, every commercial was white folks. Every commercial, Leave It to Beaver, what's the other one? The Brady Bunch, all of that. And that's what we had to sit there and look at and
So
think that
let me
was
ask you
right.
this. So how can critical race theory help with that today? Because this is no longer the 70s where you have Black everywhere, right? Where it's
Right.
not just dominated in media, social media by whiteness. So
Okay.
how is critical race theory going to help Black people today?
Well, I think it's not just Black people, it's everybody, these children, because it won't continue. These, you know, there's some white people, they say they're not racist. Some of them can't help it. They were raised that way to think that they're better than. And our children need to know, these little children need to know, we're on an equal playing field here. We're all the same. We're human beings. That's what we are.
No,
Wait.
I get what you're saying, but I disagree with that.
Let me put this to you. Let me put this proposition from two different directions. Okay, you're well-to-do middle class, upper middle class white, and somebody starts squatting on the property next to you, and effectively their trailer park trash. They literally pull the trailer up and park it in the backyard. They start drinking beer every night. They get drunk. They get to fighting, throwing glass bottles, trash, and debris all over the place, putting old broke down cars up on milk crates. And white people get upset at somebody trying to trash their neighborhood if they even happen to be white. Let's whip it over. We have upper middle class Blacks, and somebody gets sick and one of their nieces moves in with her 9 children, quarrelsome bunch of 7 babies' daddies, and they get drunk, play loud music, smoke joints all over the place, trash the place, don't cut the yard, and they've got broke down cars up on milk crates. We don't like that either, even if they nominally look to be the same race.
Right.
So often happens you get the Black poor folk around the white well-to-do folk, and sometimes the trailer park trash around the Black folk.
Yeah.
So it may have more to do with an economic disparity. Like sometimes you get a problem where you've got an upscale neighborhood. Some developers bribe the town alderman, the city councilman, get zoning variances. They put in 4,200 apartment units, small ones, low to moderate income with a lot of Section 8 housing, whereas everybody was leaving their front doors open because there's no problems. Now you get rashes of burglary. Right. Everybody is looking at them, get them the hell out of there. I don't want them here. See, and they may be Black, they may be white, but the bottom line is because of their behavioral indexes, you don't want them around. You don't want somebody, whether it's hip hop or hillbilly, you don't want them sharing their music from 4 blocks away. And you don't want to come to a restaurant to enjoy yourself, and some damn fool on the far side of the lot is yelling at somebody else about sex he had with some woman the night before and how she's a B and an H, whether it's said with a Black twang or a Southern white twang. You know, we don't want that. That's called no class.
Yeah.
So,
Macaulay, wait 1 second. Macaulay, you said you was for CRT.
Yeah.
Well, before the judge broke it down, because what my understanding, like I said, when I heard it being explained, it was explained the way I conveyed it to you two, and then the judge broke it down what the real is. So when it was conveyed to me, and I understood it as being teaching these children that their ancestors had a mental problem that treated others as animals. These kids need to know that from the jump because it's engraved in them. I have a client, just example, and then I'm going to go. I have a client. He's a white man. He's been my client for a few years now. And don't get me wrong, I like everybody, like I said, it's cool with me as long as we vibe. We understand each other. And he tries to say little things like, yes, yeah, like sometimes, we'll be talking, he'll say,
Mocking.
yes, yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I had to put him in his place. And then recently he said a whole sentence of what a slave would respond to a white slave master. And I said to him, hey, were you a slave master in a previous lifetime, trying to lighten it up. And then I'm sorry, I'm just joking, So my point is they can't help it. And I even broke it down to him. I said, you can't help it because your ancestors, they had that mentality. And it goes down through the bloodline. So they don't know it. They're not conscious that they're racist. So these little kids, they're little kids because it'll stop that mess. Because they'll be aware of it now. And they're not better than nobody. These teenagers and above, they think, I live in Portland, Oregon. So there's a lot of white folk here, but there's some nice ones too. But on the whole, they think they're so superior. And look at me.
Well, let me
And
say
that's not
this.
the case.
Let me say this because you're saying that, to a certain degree, CRT being taught in schools could stop that type of mentality. But you have to understand, for me, that mentality in a child came from the parent. CRT should be, so adults, this is why it should be taught in college. Because first of all, children can't critical think in grammar school or high school just yet. You have to develop that. So this behavior but one second, the behavior of ignorance is passed down from the parents. The parents are ignorant from their parents. So, and honestly, I think everyone else other than Black should be educated on critical race theory. But go ahead.
Right? No, I totally agree with you. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So there we have it. That's that. I just had to unload y'all.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. People should know it if it is in fact a critical assessment of race relations. But it's not critical. It's just a new label.
Yeah.
One of the problems I have is I've taught school. Like I said a little earlier today, I taught junior high and high school as a substitute teacher in the LA City school system 50 some years ago. Now, that's how I sent myself through law school. I've also been a college professor and an adjunct law professor, and I've lectured at some of the major law schools in the country. I would have to say, though, it's just unfortunate. The students are devolving. The typical sophomore in college is about on the average level of a ninth grade smart student 50 years ago.
Yeah.
They are not taught critical thinking. The classes don't go, Mr. Williams, what do you think about our homework assignment last night? Particularly if I might direct your attention to the issue the author had with the following proposition. Okay, Mr. Wilson, what do you think about that? Ms. Jackson, did he in fact broach those issues, or is that just a figment of the teacher's imagination? Mr. Osgood, what do you think, young man? Tell us what you think. Oh, come on. Did you read the material? Well, can't you give us a better analysis? Mr. Brown, what do you think, Mr. Brown? Come on now, give it to me. Come on. Oh, does anybody in this class think at all? Are we all automatons? I don't want you to be a recorder. Just tell me what was said. I want you to analyze. Come on now, think. Somebody think. Or are we all just low-grade morons up in here? How about you? Good, excellent. Somebody build on that. Ms. Smith, what do you have to add to that? Sit down, Ms. Smith. We'll come back to you. Mr. Jackson over here, the other Mr. Jackson. What do you think, young man? Good. Now we're talking.
Right. They don't do that.
They don't do that now.
Thank you, caller.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your astute observation. It was important.
Thank you. Be
You're
well,
welcome.
you guys.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Great caller. Now I see the callers in queue. Everyone is in order. I write your area code down. So just give me a second. Before I go to the next caller, which would be 571, then Chief Cook, I want to play this, Judge. I want to play this for you, and I want to get your thoughts on it. 1 second. Let me share it.
Do we have that music that they have while everybody's waiting?
No.
Dun, 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 dun.
So the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, responded sharply to questions from Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida, Republican for Florida, on Wednesday about the examination of critical race theory in the U.S. military. And this is what he said. It's a quick video.
Today, I know my time is very precious, but I would like to yield some of my time to General Milley, because I know that he had some comments that he wanted to make when Representative Gaetz was talking, as well as Mr. Waltz, about a similar subject of the stand down and race theory. Would you like a minute or so to comment on that? Do you remember what your line of questioning or thought was there?
Sure. First of all, on the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets, but I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military. And I thank you for the opportunity to make a comment on that.
Thank you, General. Changing.
My reaction,
Yes.
a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. First place, the United States Constitution never referred to Negroes as 3/4 of a person, nor 3/5. Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown popularized that. What the Constitution says in Article 1 is for purposes of apportioning representation in the House of Representatives, 3/5 of all people in involuntary servitude or slavery shall be counted toward the apportionment. That's what it says. It doesn't say anybody's 3/5 or 3/4. So that's crap. Second doggone thing is, yes, you study it, but as aforesaid, if you want to study this stuff, just go back and look at some of the curriculum from 1967, 68 at most of the major universities that had Black studies on the agenda, and you can find it. There's nothing new. It's not going to explain what's going on. It doesn't stand for any of the propositions he said. I don't even think has read the stuff. He just got a briefing, and you read it from the horse's mouth. I gave you what the woman who's invented the term came up with, Crenshaw. You read it. Does that sound like what she wrote?
No, but he did say he wants to understand white rage.
Yeah, well, what the hell does white rage have to do with the critical race theory? That's not even part of the thing about white rage.
Maybe it has to do with white people putting people of color in subordination positions, being subordinate.
Okay, well, let me explain what's going on. It's a catchphrase which this woman seized on. She popularized it, and now everybody wants to act like they know what it's about. So they hear things and then they speak authoritatively, and they don't even have a bloody clue as to what they're talking about. He didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm rather appalled at the fact that somebody that is a 4-star full general in the United States Army has that much abysmal ignorance when it comes down to what the situation is. See, he's also a political hack. Did you hear him say these people who invaded here to overthrow the Constitution?
Yeah.
What the people involved were doing is First Amendment. You have a right to assemble, to petition for redress of grievance. That's in the First Amendment. That's the way it reads. That's a quote on it, a part of it anyway. So the Supreme Court has said petition does not necessarily mean a written formal petition. It may be demonstration or protest. So the people under the First Amendment have a right to assemble, that is, come together to petition for redress of grievance.
571.
So they broke the Constitution because they came to.
Well, because they stormed the Capitol or something.
Yeah,
so.
well, it was basically a whole lot of crap blown out of proportion because the summer preceding, all of the Antifa, BLM, LGBT camps actually started tearing up a lot. It was thousands, not 180 of them. And by the way, did you read that list of the people that were mentioned by name in the indictments?
No, but somebody only got probation. So
no. That's not the point. You see, in an indictment, you can list people who are not indicted but are party participants. 1/4 of the names in these indictments were law enforcement officials. So in other words, 1/4 of the 180 people in there were law enforcement.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? I've
Right.
warned people about we can't have unity until we weed out the snitches, the pimps, the hoes, the informants, and the agents, because all you do is bring yourself grief if you try to unify with your enemy.
right.
So what you had here was amongst the white people, 1/4 of the people that were in there were somehow or another connected with law enforcement. And although they're named in the indictments, they are not indicted parties. They're just actors and they're designated as law enforcement.